So the context here is that Ed Miliband did a speech in Parliament yesterday, essentially saying that despite all of the anti-net zero talk that seems to be very popular in terms of politicians, it's not popular with the public, by the way. Public still overwhelmingly support environmentalism, still overwhelmingly support action on averting the climate crisis. There's actually loads of popular public consent for policies to mitigate climate change. So a lot of this net zero stuff is super, super, super hobby horse stuff from parties of the right who just happen to be in bed with the petrochemical industry, and even their own voter base who really do engage with their kind of specific politics. Even they aren't particularly hot on Reform UK's anti-climate action stuff. So it's really like a solved issue in terms of the public perception, and it's not popular for Reform UK to bang the drum, unless, of course, they weren't actually doing it to court votes and triangulate. It was actually all being done because they're people who just happen to be very, very friendly with the petrochemical industry. So this was Zack Polanski and Andrea Jenkyns debating the efficacy of net zero politics on Radio 4 yesterday.
Good evening.
Zack Polanski, first of all, is this a speech you welcomed?
Absolutely. This is very much welcomed. I'm currently running for leader of the Green Party, talking about bolder leadership. And this is the sort of thing I think we need to hear from all politicians. I do have doubts whether the Labour government will meet the rhetoric of Ed Miliband, but nevertheless, I welcome anyone who's speaking up about the fact that this is a climate emergency. We live in one of the most nature-depleted countries in the world, and this is an opportunity for jobs, to make sure that they're paid properly, that they're given proper dignity and working conditions, and also that we're doing things like insulating homes so they're warmer in the winter and cooler in the summer.
And that's the important thing, right, is that this is an opportunity, and not only will it be a good way of engaging in industrial policy to try and create good jobs and engage in economic stimulus, both on the demand and on the supply side, it's also, again, a really important thing to bring bills down by building cheaper, cleaner energy. Not only will increased supply bring down prices anyway, the strike price of renewable energy is lower than that of fossil fuels. The future of this particular industry is far more sustainable in terms of its efficacy. There's only a limited supply of fossil fuels anyway, even if you take away the concerns about carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and overall levels of pollution. This is a finite resource you can't build an economy on. Unless the sun goes away or wind stops as a concept, you've got plenty of life out of renewable energy just yet.
But these are things we need to do anyway, and they're really good for our economy.
Yeah, but just before I move on to Dame Andrea, the framing of this is something that's patriotic. Is that a good way to approach it?
Yes, I never think we should let the right and Reform kind of claim patriotism. Patriotism is loving your community. Patriotism is caring about your neighbours and the people around you. And actually, I think it's really important that people in this country reclaim patriotism, and they're really proud. And actually, denying that there's a climate emergency is one of the most unpatriotic things imaginable, because you are selling our children and our grandchildren down the river for private profit. And actually,
True. So true.
the most patriotic thing to do is to recognise this is an emergency. We have to act now, and we have to tell the truth, and this will make our society better.
Dame Andrea, what did you make?
And that's it, right? Is that they say they love their country, all of the patriotic right, yet they're very happy to sell out future generations to petrochemical companies, right? It's so patriotic that the foreign owners of ExxonMobil, Shell and BP take far, far, far higher precedence than the breathable air for the children who actually have to live here.
Well, I think you're the Green Party leadership candidate. It sounds like actually a party political broadcast for the Labour Party. You know, they're meant to be opposition to Labour, but is virtually agreeing to everything that Miliband's saying. I mean, look, to me, there's no such thing as a climate emergency. And the British people actually need protecting by net zero zealotry, and they are bankrupt in Britain. I mean, all I need to do is actually look.
I mean, what bankrupted Britain was our over-reliance on international gas markets. The biggest economic shock to this country was the gas price spike. Shall we compare it to, say, France, where they overwhelmingly use renewables and nuclear and don't rely on fossil fuels at all, really, for energy production, they managed to halt their increase in energy bills at around about 4%. Did they have to engage in a gigantic splurge of energy bill subsidy from the state to protect not only people's bills but also petrochemical company profits? No, they didn't. They didn't have to do that because they had alternatives, more sustainable alternatives. Again, you want us to be not only cucked out to international petrochemical companies, but cucked out to foreign petrostates as well. Isn't it just weird that these people who really love taking America's line on foreign policy also love wanting to buy all of America's oil and gas, given they're one of the biggest oil and gas producers in the world? It's weird, that, isn't it?
Across Lincolnshire, Miliband is trying to do tens of thousands of solar farms on prime agricultural land, but no one's talking about energy security and food security. You know, we are the breadbasket that feeds Britain, and what about the food security of our country? And we're becoming...
I mean, we import most of our food anyway. One of the good things about living in the UK in terms of grocery price is that because we have such a really strong currency in the pound and we are an import reliant economy, it means that it's actually very easy to buy those imports. One of the things that makes our food so cheap is that imported food is made cheap by how strong the currency is. If we want to become one of these self-sufficient countries in terms of food production, it's going to be more expensive to buy food.
A dumping ground for pylons as well as solar.
Literally getting mad about pylons, right? I thought it was the Green Party supposed to be obsessed with pylons. But no. The real pylon menace party is Reform UK. The thing is, Reform UK talk about being this party that's going to slash the red tape to generate economic growth, right? But what they'll do is they will weaponize NIMBY problems with the infrastructure necessary for green energy and say, you have fewer pylons if we pump a bunch of chemicals into the air through fossil fuel production.
And
but is then your approach the patriotic approach? Would you say? Would you kind of disagree with Ed Miliband on what constitutes a patriotic approach towards the climate?
A patriotic approach is actually standing up for the people of Britain. Look, I'm a vegetarian. I've been an animal rights campaigner for 25 years. You know, I've won.
But all of the animals that exist once I'm dead, they can incinerate in the ever-increasing climate. Great, Andrea, thanks.
Animals and nature to be looked after, but I do not believe in this climate emergency. And what about the people? It's not kind when we have some of the highest energy costs in the world. You know, I've got constituents who are struggling to pay their bills because of the energy costs and because of this massive tilt towards net zero at all costs. And we've...
Well, no. The bills are high because of gas prices. It's oil and gas prices that pushed up the cost of energy. The countries in Europe that have lower energy prices than we do have a greater mix of renewables than we do.
We've got to look at other options like fracking. We've got to shift the dial and only...
It's incredible, really, how Reform UK will say we can't build pylons because think of the house prices. What about the house prices of all the people who live near the places that you want to frack? I don't think it's really good for house prices for there to be potential earthquakes. Just a thought.
Reform is brave enough to do this.
Zack Polanski, I mean, clearly this is not going to, probably was never going to convince Dame Andrea. But I mean, to those who are moving towards Reform's position, or the Conservative position indeed, which is that the 2050 goal for net zero is impossible, in the words of Kemi Badenoch. Is a speech like this, is this kind of approach going to change minds, do you think?
We need to listen to scientists, and we also need to be aware when politicians like Andrea talk, we need to know where they're coming from. Reform since 2019 to 2024 took £2.3 million in donations from fossil fuel companies and climate denying companies. So it should not be a surprise when she comes on the BBC and says there's no climate crisis. That defies every serious scientist in the country and in the world. It is dangerous. It is sociopathic behaviour because ultimately you are selling children and grandchildren down the river
my
for private
gosh.
profit that your party is
Okay,
taking as a private company.
Let Dame Andrea come back.
I mean, he's all correct here. He's absolutely all correct. And this is motivated reasoning from people who have the interests of, again, international foreign petrochemical companies and foreign petrostates ahead of the own constituents of the United Kingdom, right? They are putting foreign businesses, foreign petrostates ahead of our country and claim to be patriots, right? And he's right to call this out, that this is blatantly corrupt. But it's also worth pointing out that, again, she is also just lying, right? Like, the companies that she is being a little cock for, that she's being a mouthpiece for, are the same ones that are profiting from our high bills. It is those same oil and gas companies that are charging us through the nose for energy right now. If we actually had homegrown, publicly owned clean power, properly publicly owned, not public-private partnership bullshit, not only would there not be a profit motive, which would keep bills lower, but also anything that does get paid in bills goes back into new production to be able to increase the supply again.
On that.
Gosh, this is just laughable. You don't live in the real world. You don't live in the real.
And I'm sorry, that the real world means you don't get something for nothing. Right? Real people understand that people don't give money to political parties out of the goodness of their heart. They do it for a quid pro quo. You get money from the petrochemical industry to represent the interests of the petrochemical industry. Everybody knows this. Stop acting coy, Andrea.
World and speak to constituents, come up to the shires and see how your views will go down. People are struggling through this net zero zealotry, and
people in the shires are the ones who have the most to fear from climate collapse.
Our views are the views of the majority of the public. And you talk about actually,
I mean, I'm just going to bring up some polls because I'm sick of them trying to pretend that they are representative of majority opinion here. Here is a YouGov poll from March 2025. This is the most recent one. To what extent do you support or oppose the government's commitment to cut carbon emissions to net zero by 2050? Support 51%, 61% support, 24% opposed, or 15% don't know. Like, it is overwhelmingly supported by the public. Reach net zero, right? She's just lying. She's just obviously lying.
Academics and papers what are out there, it's actually because it's such an industry and so much money being made out of this net zero that people
imagine trying to impugn the profit motives of the net zero industry whilst being a propagandist for the petrochemical industry. You couldn't make it up. You couldn't make it up. Or while you have impure motives because of the profits there in the green energy sector, as opposed to the comparative profits in the fossil fuel sector? Hello?
people's voices are drowned out.
Can I just ask? Let Dame Andrea finish. But I did want to put. Sorry, Dame Andrea, go ahead.
But there is plenty of research out there to the contrary.
Can I just ask you on?
She's literally doing climate denial. Oh, there is contrary research. There isn't, right? In the words of Philomena Kunk.
But not everyone thinks climate change is real. This hot topic has split the science community straight down the middle, 90-10.
On jobs. I mean, the green industries are estimated to be worth £980 million to the greater Lincolnshire economy, aren't they? What do you say to people who are in those jobs?
Look, what I say is I've said that I will not give any of my mayoral funds to green industries because they are being subsidised by the taxpayer through central government. And I want to shift the dial because if you put all your eggs in one basket, that's not the right thing to do. We've seen what's happened to British Steel. Look what's happening to Prax Oil.
I mean, look what's happening in France, where their economy is doing much better than ours because their energy prices are cheaper because they didn't rely on fossil fuels. You didn't say they were putting all of their eggs in a singular basket, did you? And they're doing better.
Refinery, they're potentially going bust, and it's because of net zero. But what I've said I will do is I will ensure that all our industries, whatever industries, have got the skills
Fucking
needed for the
neoliberalism.
workforce, and these skills are transferable into other industries.
Okay.
And what I've also said is I've met with a fracking company with a gas find in Lincolnshire, and I've said that if we lift this moratorium, if we get into government in 4 years' time, we lift the moratorium ban against fracking, then I will ensure that the Lincolnshire workforce is skilled, ready to hit the ground running on.
Literally, they do absolutely hate the poor, don't they, David, right? You're absolutely right to say that net zero is a job creation and reindustrialization strategy for deprived areas. It is the perfect thing to put supply side state industrial policy into, to reinvigorate the left behind areas in the north of England, in the West Midlands, for example. Plenty of places that were left behind by Thatcherism can have jobs and industry and prosperity return to them through industrial policy. And what's her answer? Oh, we're going to do fracking. We're going to give you earthquakes instead. Like, come on. And she already is the mayor of a constituency, of a mayoralty, where huge amounts of the actual industry in that area is reliant on renewables.
Zack Polanski.
That oil and gas is being sold on the international market. Renewable energy is the cheapest form of energy, and this will cost over 12,000 jobs for Lincoln. And so ultimately, we need to make sure that we are standing up to say this is about investing in jobs, it's about investing in the future of our country. And again, you'll notice that Andrea did not deny the reform of taking that money from climate-denying companies, and that's exactly what's going on here.
Oh my God.
We have to leave it there, but you made your...
I mean, Andrea literally managed to dominate the whole discussion and didn't make any points at all. And again, Zack was absolutely right. It will be a cheaper form of energy. It will bring bills down. It will give people jobs. And it will give us energy security by not being reliant on international gas markets. He absolutely smashed this one out of the park. Hey there, if you enjoyed the video, make sure that you like and leave a comment. That helps the video out in the algorithm. If you subscribe and ring the bell, it'll let you know when I go live. I stream every day on YouTube and Twitch. You can also follow all of my socials down in the description. And if you want to support me in a more financial manner, there's a join button for membership to just 99p to be a member on YouTube, as well as a Patreon, and there's some merch there as well. And hopefully I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.